Outriders is yet another looter shooter, but a looter shooter that managed to avoid controversy. Well done. The game is developed by People Can Fly, developers of Gears of War, Bulletstorm and Fortnite Save the World. The game, unlike a lot of other games in this genre, has been met with relatively good reviews and has done pretty well. The game is now a few months old and I have also platinumed the game, so let's check it out and see if it is actually as good as everyone was saying. And if you enjoyed this video, please consider subscribing or giving a like. The story of Outriders starts out pretty interesting, following a group of humans that has fled a dying Earth to a new home for things to obviously go tits up pretty quick. Your character is then put into some sort of cryosleep and wakes up years later to a new hellscape. From then on out, you journey to find out what a mysterious signal is and what is up with the anomaly that has been keeping humanity at bay over the planet. Overall, the story, as I stated, starts off pretty strong and interesting, but all the reveals are just kind of meh. Nothing is as interesting as I hoped it would be. The characters, mainly you, can be a real mix of tone. One minute things are serious, but then your character reacts all jokey and it just is really off. It just doesn't make sense whatsoever. One of the earliest examples of this is you save a lady from a bunch of bandits or criminals who have some sort of rapey sex dungeon going on, and you're talking to the main dude being all big and tough, and then someone else kills the main dude and you're like, damn dude, I couldn't even finish my line. And it's like, okay, but he had rapey sex dungeon, kill him. It doesn't matter whether you finish your line or not. It's like your character has come from like an Uncharted game and has been put into a super serious dark story, and it just doesn't mesh well whatsoever.
Your soul!
So the gameplay of Outriders is a third-person cover-based looter shooter. You run through semi-open worlds that you can travel between using a truck, which you can freely customise but not really use. The basic gameplay loop is travel to X location and shoot a load of lads with a variety of weapons. In the game story you gain abilities, you become, as they call it, a altered, so in a gameplay context you just gain abilities. At the beginning of the game you can choose from a few classes. Each class has their own abilities and strengths. I chose to go with a Technomancer. I normally go with something a bit more tanky, so I thought I'd go for a more hands-off approach this time. So I just chuck a turret down or a trap and watch the chaos unfold. The abilities unlock through levelling up, which is gained by the normal means of XP. You also gain skill points to put in a skill tree, which you can then use to specialise in a build, which becomes very important the higher difficulty you play. That also applies to the game's modding system. Throughout your adventure you'll be able to break down old gear and get that gear's mods. You can then apply those mods to any new gear you get, so you can gear your gear towards, say, using turrets or mines. So getting the right mods for what you want to specialise in is part of the hunt. The guns themselves are quite varied, from sniper rifles, shotguns, auto shotguns, pistols, assault rifles and more. A lot of the games in the early game threw up the rarities up until the doofy legendaries do look quite similar though. You'll see quite a few of the same gun as you're going through. The legendaries on the other hand are super unique in design and use, and they thankfully aren't just the same sniper rifle as before, but yellow. The gunplay is punchy and fast and incredibly bloody. You'll be making dudes explode left, right and centre. The game does have a cover mechanic, but during the later parts of the game it is barely usable. Enemies rush you, bomb you, and beast monsters swarm you, so you are always on the move, so the cover in the game is really only there if you want to just snuggle next to a brick for a minute. The gameplay for Outriders is fun, but also nothing particularly new, and if you let the game level up your world tier, basically difficulty, automatically, then the game can get really tough, and you really have to max out your builds. The controls also are super snappy and fast, so you'll never be where you don't want to be. Though even with snappy controls, some enemies like the beast monsters will still hit you even though you probably should have dodged it. But that's a problem with beast monsters in this game, they just don't give a shit. At the start of the game you can create your own character, and then you can edit them at your camp throughout the game if you aren't happy with them. Though most of the time they'll be covered up by the large amounts of armors you can get. You can also use emotes and different types of banners which you can unlock through leveling up in the game. Enemy design starts off pretty cool and strong, they look cool, they look unique, but by about an hour in, you've seen basically everything. Even in completely different biomes, like from a jungle to a desert, you've got the same alien but it's just a different colour. It's super disappointing with the lack of variety, especially in aliens or creatures. You're on a new planet, but everything looks the fucking same. Surely an alien that can survive in a snowy area shouldn't be able to also be hang out in a desert area. The endgame for Outriders is also very lacking. Throughout the game you have side quests, hunts and bounties to do, but they're all basically just go here, kill this, and you'll be pretty much done by the end of the game. Once you finish the story dictates that you have to go and collect drop pods. These drop pods are expeditions, the endgame missions. Basically you have to run through a mission to collect a drop pod full of loot, but there's a time scale for some reason. The faster you complete the mission, the better loot you'll get, and honestly I don't like that. I'd rather replay a variety of missions without having to charge through worrying if I'm going fast enough. And after a while it just gets kinda boring, just going through the same levels, blasting dude, trying to be as quick as possible. But if you enjoy the combat enough and just want more, then hell yeah, it's great, but I just got kinda bored of it. Especially when it's just the same enemies over and over again. Oh look, a particularly special monster is protecting this drop pod. Oh, it's just that monster I've killed about 50 of, but he's got a different name. The graphics in Outriders is also pretty good. This is being played on a PS5 and the frame rate is buttery smooth. The world also does have quite a lot of variety, snow, jungles, desert, but none of it feel particularly alien. They all look really good, but again not alien. This game does not feel like it's set on a different planet, it just feels post-apocalyptic, if anything. Overall, Outriders is a fine game, but that's just it, it's just fine. I think it got a huge pass for avoiding any controversy and aggressive monetization, and it does feel like a finished game, which can't be said for other games in the genre. It is fun, but it's just a third-person looter shooter with some fun-ish abilities, and a kinda boring story towards the end, and also not much of an end game. But you can probably get it pretty cheap soon, so if you like what you see and you wanna just shoot some dudes and blow them up, then hell yeah, go for it. So thank you for watching, and I will see you next time.